Hello my lovelies, and welcome to part 2 to our March 2024 Deck Strength versus Weakness series. So we're going to be covering Perfect Pairs Tarot. I have, I have 8 decks to show you. I have an even split between indie and mass market. So I'm going to start with the indie decks, and then we will move on to a mass market. So hopefully I will find something to go with our featured deck of the month, the Mermaid Tarot, that you either have, can locate, or are maybe interested in. Anyway, our first indie deck is a Kickstarter deck. This is the Stardust Wanderer Tarot. And it's actually quite nice that these two pair. One is mermaids, one is space pirates. Very different themes. I'd like you all to please note that when I say decks pair, it's about the energy of the deck, not about the aesthetics. So it's not about the artwork, it's not about the way it looks next pretty to each other, or, you know, looks ugly next to each other. That is not the point. It's about the energy of the decks and whether or not the decks will energetically get along. And these two decks work just fine with each other. Believe it or not, they actually have, excuse me, they both have the same weakness. Which, if you missed part 1 of this particular series about the Mermaid Tarot, you can look in the description box down below. But the weakness I am discussing is higher self. Okay, and we're going to keep moving right along. I do apologize for my pacing, but I'm not going to keep you here all day. The next indie deck I have for us to look at is the Divine Tarot of the Unicorn. Now, this is also a Kickstarter indie deck. It is pastel. It is very different. Yes, technically, they're kind of both mystical creatures, mermaids, unicorns. Once again, it's not about the aesthetics. They do pair, and believe it or not, the Divine Tarot of the Unicorn has more than one strength, but they do share a strength. So the strength of the Mermaid Tarot is manifestation, energy, and that is the second strength of the Divine Unicorn, or Divine Tarot of the Unicorn. Let's see if I can get the words in the right order and come out my mouth properly. So something a little bit different. I mean, this is more, as you can see, colorations are quite different. Maybe you're more of a unicorn fan than a mermaid fan, or perhaps you just like pastels. Might be something else worth it for you to try and snag a copy of if they're still available. Alright, and our next deck, this is also a Kickstarter indie deck. This is the Surreal Shadows Oracle. So this is a mixed media deck. Now, as you can tell, the artwork is very, very different between the two. However, it's not the fact that they share strength or they share a weakness. Believe it or not, these two decks have the exact same job in my collection. So, quick recap. The job of the Mermaid Tarot is to tell me where the energy is or where the energy isn't at any given point. And the Surreal Shadows actually does the exact same thing. Now, that doesn't mean they show me the energy in the exact same way. Because here's the clincher. I have decks that have the exact same job. However, they express how the energy is there or isn't there in different ways. So, you'll get different aspects of that particular job depending on the deck. And those are based off the strength and weakness of the particular individual deck. Moving right along. Here's our last indie deck. Some of you might recognize this. This is the Golden Journey Luxury Edition. I waited the extra time for the brighter color one with a different core stock, so it's not the standard. But this is also another deck that, although looking different in aesthetics, has the exact same job. tells you where the energy is or isn't. I actually have a great many number of decks that has that particular job in my collection, and I didn't realize quite how many I truly had until I went to go film this, and there's a fair amount of them. Granted, like I said, that doesn't mean that they express the same job in the same exact way. Alright, we're going to move right on to our mass market decks. And the first one I have to show you is a monochrome deck. This is the Tarot of the Abyss by Anna Turian. You might be familiar with this one, you may not. It is a black and white hand-drawn deck. I actually quite enjoy this one. This is a Divine Feminine deck. That is the strength of the deck. And although the Mermaid Tarot has the drawback of a weakness of the higher self, it is still a water deck. It is still a deck that leans into the Divine Feminine enough that these two, despite maybe some not perfect alignment with strength and weaknesses, still actually communicate. They still get along. They are usable together. And it's interesting to see the black and white with the deck that's very much color on the table. Speaking of color, that's going to bring me to our next deck, which is also a known mass market. This is the Tarot of Owls. It's a Pamela Chen deck. So a lot of bright colors in this one. Now these two particular decks do share the same weakness. They struggle when it comes to the higher self aspect. But because their strengths differ and their jobs differ, it's quite interesting when these two are on the table and you're not having to have an issue with the fact that they both lack the ability to clearly communicate when it comes to your higher self. Alright, moving right along. And here we have the Lorenzi Tarot. Now, some people don't actually enjoy this particular deck. It is kind of unique. Some people describe it as morbid. It does have, you know, dismembered body parts, anatomically correct hearts, etc. Some people find it a little unnerving as a deck. But it too shares the same weakness as the Mermaid Tarot. So higher self is not easily done by either of them. And they do cover different strengths and different jobs. So here's a particular deck that you can pair with the Mermaid Tarot and get a whole new range of overlap because they share the same weakness. So as long as you're not trudging into higher self territory, you can actually expand more with the Mermaid Tarot by pairing it with the Lorenzi. And believe it or not, I have one last deck for us to view. Some of you are going to recognize this, especially if you saw my video on the 5 elements. You will recognize this. If you've been on my channel for a while, this is the Heaven and Earth Tarot. Okay, the Heaven and Earth Tarot used to be my #1 spirituality deck. That's what it had as a place in my collection, was my spirituality deck. It has been supplanted by the Unfolding Path Tarot. However, these two decks, believe it or not, have the same job. They tell me where the energy is or isn't. And as I keep saying, just because they have the same job doesn't mean they approach it in the same way. This takes it as a manifestation, literally, where is the energy? What is the energy itself? How is that coming to fruition or isn't? Whereas the Heaven and Earth is taking it from the spiritual side. Hence why it was my #1 spirituality deck. So it'll tell you where the spiritual energy is or isn't. Different approaches, same job. This is why that's kind of important to know. Alright, my lovelies, that's all the decks I have to show to you for this particular section. I do have the extended list in the description box down below. You'll also see the link to part 1 of this series down there. We will also be airing the Perfect Pairs Oracle edition tomorrow, followed by the Anti-Pairs, both Tarot and Oracle. Please be on the lookout for them. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!